Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming here for Martina Martin's Artist Talk today. If you want to ask any questions, make any comments, please use the chat box with panelists and attendees tick, or if you'd like to be anonymous, please use the Q&A feature. So I'll say a little bit about Martina Martin. She is one of our exhibitors on our online exhibition, currently Human Mind. And Martina is inspired by everything that surrounds her day-to-day life, including nature, landscapes, sunsets, and people, and her own mental health and mind experiences. Having fell out of love for all things creative, Martina, over the past year, and a bit has sought solace in the form of digital art. Using this as a way to calming her mind and relaxing, she has managed to tap back into that passion for creating art. I'll pass it back over to you now, Martina.
Thank you very much, Kirsty, for allowing me to do this. So I have to say that my talk tonight is going to be about exploring my mind and my process in terms of how I've created my art and why I create my art. I submitted quite a few pieces into this exhibition, pieces that actually mean a lot and I think would help other people to understand and look at their own feelings as well. But in order to start talking about my work, I think I need to go back to my starting point. So this quote here is something that I now emulate as my starting point. I'm a person for the past 5 or 6 years who has suffered very badly from extreme mental health, and I've been on a journey for that. Depression and anxiety kind of crippled my life, and part of my illness was that I was a self-harmer and have been for quite a number of years, although former self-harmer. So for me, talking about my feelings and what caused me to do things was very difficult to be able to put into words for people, and particularly for close friends and family, it was really difficult because I just really didn't have the mindset to be able to put it into words. So for me, digital art and what I've created so far in the past year to 18 months has been almost like a digital journal for me. So although I'm good with words and talking, this just helps me express parts of me and parts of my mindset where I don't have any words to be able to tell people. So in a sense, digital art for me kind of found me. It allowed me to be able to explore things, and as I said, I am very much inspired by all things round about me. I'm a very observant person, and that comes from previously I worked in creative industries. I graduated with visual communications qualification, so that included doing graphic design and photography. Photography did become a passion for mine. I did kind of fall away from that, but in a sense, I still kept the remnants of just everything round about me. Nature, urbanism, just always intrigued me. And from that, I thought about how I could use those elements that I see round about me and look within myself. So for me, my starting point and my journey so far has been a progressive of looking within myself, self-acceptance, and also self-love as well. So as I said, everything round about me inspires me. I'm very easily inspired by things and by random things. So for me, the starting point to the first piece that I submitted came from various walks that I've done, but in particular a drive home from my parents to my house. And there's a kind of couple of billboards that sit on the way home, and over the course of lockdown, because nobody was working and everybody was self-isolating, there was one particular billboard that started to kind of tear away the advertisements underneath. It had years of advertisements and it was ripped and the weather had got to it. I drove past this probably about 100 to 200 times, and each time I drove past I thought, I really need to get a picture of this. I need to be able to use this and stuff that I'm doing. From there, when I went walking on a local walk, this picture down here at the bottom with the tree, this tree is magnificent, it's massive, and from it, the marks on it, I just automatically related to it, because obviously it shows over the years of its growth and its progression that the scars that the weather and nature has caused on it. And in its sense, it shows a vulnerability. So both of these items in surroundings round about me show vulnerability, it shows transparency, and it shows its life form. The other thing that really interests me is wood and aging woods, because I love the kind of, if you've painted it, the scrapings underneath, because I think in my life and in everybody else's life, you really do kind of show elements of your life cycle coming through, and that whether that be emotion or just traits that you have. From here, I created what is now Layers of Life and the Scars We Bear. For me, this is nature and human becoming one. As I said, it shows a vulnerable state, and nature's living in evolution of urban states also correlates with our human life cycle and the states that we live in. I started off, I work in square format. Part of that thinking and part of the therapy process that I've done is that people are so easily consumed to a box. So all my artwork is done within a box format or a rectangle format. The layers of life I used as squares within squares. So it's almost a case of that you start off in a little box, and as you grow through life, it expands, and with each section, it can relate to any part of your life, from childhood to adult, or from trauma experiences to coming through trauma experiences. But each time we leave a mark, and whether those scars we bear are physical or not physical, we do have scars, everybody has them. They could be really positive scars of achievements, whether you've been ill and you've come through, or in the sense with me, I self-harmed, but I'm on a journey now where I'm not doing that, and I'm able to do this in order to help myself and when I'm feeling. I work in very vibrant colours, and the reason that I work in very vibrant colours because life isn't black and white. Yeah, there's some dull elements, which the colours are dulled down in certain sections, but colour evokes emotion. And for me, I'm very in tune with vibrant colours. I find that the more bright the colours are, the better that it helps you come out if you're feeling down or if you're feeling the stresses of life. So for me, this is the final piece on what was about 6 or 7 pieces. And I always think that when I show this to people, to me, some people just look at it as nice artwork, but when you start to talk about it, my hope is that people can then start to see that they can move out within the box, and it's okay just to say, well, this has happened or that's happened, but do you know what, I can move on to the next layer. The next process for me is that I'm a huge fan of nature. I love walking, I like cycling, and there's a particular place that I love to visit. Because I come from outside Glasgow, there's a lot of nature trails. So this picture here is from the Falls of Clyde at Lanark. This is a fascinating place to go because you've got to climb up, and with every turn there's waterfalls round about. And for me, every time that I visit these places, I always seem much more calm in myself. I feel that it de-stresses me, and just the sound of water, I don't know if anybody else can relate, but it's just so peaceful, even although it may make you need to go to the bathroom from now and again. It made me start to look into the concept of water. I mean, water unifies all of the planet Earth because we depend on it for survival. Human nature depends on it for survival, so does the planet overall. But it's also a symbol of our emotional capacity. And this is something that I found really interesting, because it made me stop and think about my own emotional capacity. There's certain times in life that I can feel totally overstressed on things, and that's just human life, you know, when you go out to work. So on one of my walks one day, I decided I wanted to create something that would let people be able to look at something and calm themselves, but also tap into how they emotionally deal with things. So from that, I created water flow. My two main words for this image is survival and in tune with your emotions. Using digital paintbrushes, I use Procreate to create my work. I wanted to, with every brushstroke, create that element of water flowing through. So starting off with general kind of lines and then pushing them round about the canvas, I came up with this lovely little wavy thing, which to me automatically shouted out water. For the colour palettes, I wanted to keep it in a state of calm. So I wanted to keep the colours pretty much subtle, but also in terms of keeping the water theme going through it. So the turquoise and the blues, just to kind of keep that feeling of water. I wanted to create something that an observer looking at it can almost go into a meditative state. And if you close your eyes once you've looked at it, for me, I can almost feel and hear the water on my skin and round about me. And for me, that is such a calming process. This is one of my favourite pieces to look at, and I do have it printed up. For me, I could sit and look at it for hours. It also reminds me that I'm still here for everything that I've went through, and I want other people to see that no matter how hard times are, you are in that sense of that you've survived a hard day at work, you've survived a trauma, you've survived life and what it throws at you. Again, I've layered it up using squares. I just almost like the fact sometimes with my work that I want to be able to pull the people in. So I want people to be able to see that this is how I'm thinking, but I also want them to tap into themselves and tap into their own thinking and just even ask themselves, well, how am I feeling at this present time? My next project that I've been working on, this is probably one of my most all-time favourite ones, is Metamorphosis. For me, having been through the journey that I've been through, this was very fun exploring. So metamorphosis, obviously, when you talk to people about that word, they automatically think about animal formations and transformations from immature form to adult form. So you've got your butterflies, frogs, and so on and so forth. But it really got me thinking about the metamorphosis of mind and body, the change from a nature and a thing to and a person to a completely different one. And really that does happen in our life. We start off where we're the fetus, and then we're born and we're a child, and then we go through our teenage years and into adult years, and then again it evolves and revolves. And so from the human format of the body doing that, I also looked at the mind. I wanted to be able to create something that showcased how I think and how I think others' brain states would look like, depending on different emotions that we're feeling. From here, I started in terms of a progression state. My first thing that I always do when I'm creating art is I pick my colour palettes very carefully, and that can take 2 to 3 days to work out the right colour palettes. Again, I love to create work where the colours are very bright, vibrant and in your face, because again, I want to evoke that emotion quite quickly. For this one, I had the idea of kind of archery target in my head. I don't know why. Must have been something that I was watching at the time. As I said, I find things that I have round about me at that time very inspiring. And from there, I just started to play around with the various tools. So the static form in the first image, although it's very in your face, it wasn't really what I wanted to go with. So from there, I started to blend it out using whites. In my head at this stage, I was thinking about when you've went through a day of working, you start off in a very solid form, but as your day progresses on, you start to break down. Everything starts to all merge into one. And from there, I then started to move it a bit further. So we then move into the circle formation, where the colours then start to blend into each other. I really was wanting to experiment with this in terms of getting the feeling of movement, that subtle movement. And this is the thing that I always think about. It takes subtle little things to start to make the brain tick again. They combine all together. You've got all of these emotions, you don't know what to do with them. So they just clump together. And for this, I think it really showcased it a lot more. I always look at my working day, because I work in the NHS environment. By the time I come home, I've got this circle of stress sitting in my head. But when I come home, it starts to move out the way. And so from the last image, you can see that it's starting to spread out, it's starting to expand out. And for me, that's you starting your relaxation state. The final state that I came up with was this one. You're finally all stretched out, you're relaxed. Again, I wanted to add in the abstract theme of boxing, but also giving the movement of the metamorphosis spilling out over into different layers. Again, using different colour formations, I also love using monochromatic. I think blending colour with monochromatic also gives another element of tapping into your emotions. This final state for me, I would say, represents where my brain is at just now, from day to day living. I go through those different elements every day, or some days I don't. I'm always in a static state, but I want people to be able to look at it and think to themselves, well, actually, that is really how I'm feeling. That's how I think my brain's working. And just being able to have an image to showcase this is how I'm feeling to people is something very powerful for me. I'm not the biggest talker, and for me, being able to showcase what I think my metamorphosis of my brain is really, really speaks volumes to people, and I hope that people can relate to it. This process over the past year, particularly having a pandemic, has really made me look more into the whole digital art world. Working in digital art has really, really opened my eyes, because I find from one image like this metamorphosis, I can work from one image and I can create 6, 7, 8 different images, and each image has a different meaning to it and a different final outcome to it. But it made me look at my life overall. And as I said, I find that people put themselves in boxes and they really are scared to come out of their box. And it's those little baby steps and the encouragement of other people and the support of other people that lets us move on to the next thing. So one of the other final pieces that I had submitted was the map of life. This is how I view life. It started off a very fun project, using lots of different vibrant colours, showcasing inner child. We all have an inner child, but as the older we get, people generally tend to smother it out or extinguish it out, because they're too busy to look within and have a bit of fun or the imagination and stuff. So we kind of block it all in. So the middle section of this picture, I would say, represents my inner child. You know, I know my inner child's there, and it's taken a long time for me to tap back into that. And then the section after it represents my teenage years. Teenage years for me was quite a difficult time, and there is those colourings of kind of a dark but still elements of colour coming through. The lines crossing over each of the boxes are my representations of the paths that we all take. We have several paths that we take in life, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good, but at the end of the day, we need to take those paths in order to get to where we want to be in life. And for a long time, I really didn't see where I was going in life. I didn't see an end in sight. So the black box round about that next to the colouring represents the dark times for me. It represents the fact of I was so consumed by emotions that I couldn't deal with. I couldn't feel that I could talk to people. And so all the kind of lines start to fade out slightly because I feel the paths were all disappearing on me. The final section of this map of life, I've chose to make white and strong black lines because it's this journey into doing art every day and talking to people around about me who are so passionate about things that's showcasing the light at the end of the tunnel for me. And for me, I find this piece really sums up just a general person's life, whether it be that they've had such a really good life and opportunities have opened up for them. But what I want to showcase is that the fact of it doesn't matter how many paths you go down, you always end up getting on the path that you want to be. But you just have to tap into that, and you have to stop, you have to breathe, listen to the water around about you, and focus on what it is that you really want at the end of the day. And for me, my whole process of my work that I've created, journals that I use line, I use squares, I use formation, because I think it's really strong representations of a human being. It really sums up me without having to say that it's me that I'm talking about. And I hope that other people are able to, if they don't have a way of talking to people or talking about how they're feeling, that they can pick up a pencil. They don't have to be the greatest artist in the world, but they can pick up a pencil and they can just doodle away and let whatever's inside them flow through onto paper. As I said, why the square? We all put ourselves in a box, do we not? And my whole future campaign of doing work is that I want to be able to break people out of that square thinking, and to be able to allow themselves to let that inner child that's within them out, and to be at one with nature and think about nature is going through the exact same thing as us, albeit they don't have a voice, but they do showcase it, like the layers of life and the scars that we bear. So yeah, that's really all I have to say.
That was fantastic. Your art is so brilliant. The way that you create it, and it was great to listen to a bit more about your artwork. I love the painterly aspect into the digital art that you do, and it's so important to talk about mental health, and your artwork is that vessel to be able to talk about it, because everyone's gone through something. You'll never walk through life without the bad, and I feel like that's what your life map drawing really showed, that no matter how good things are, you always have the bad parts.
That's the thing about it. I mean, as I said, I do I'm in a recovering process. It's been a journey in terms of being able to do this has been a milestone for me. This year in particular, being able to showcase work to people has been a huge milestone for me, because up until 2 years ago, I would never have done this. I wouldn't really have the confidence to be able to sit down and say, well, this is why I've done this. So throughout my whole life, I've always thought I've not been good enough. And being able to do create something where you don't have to speak to someone, you just do what makes you feel comfortable, I think is a really good foundation for people to start. I find it very therapeutic and cathartic in terms of I can sit for hours and do this. As I say, you said the painterly side of it. I used to do art and I wanted to be an artist. I just never felt I was good enough for it. But with the digital format working, I can still do that painterly side, but I'm not having to physically pick up a paintbrush and do it. I'm just doing it, on a screen. And for me, I find that the digital age is quite powerful for that. It allows people to just explore things a bit more for themselves, without having to scrub painting, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, it's great, and I mean, I'm glad that you had the confidence to go into this. Your artwork deserves to be seen, and but really, how do you feel now that you've had the confidence to put it out there? And
I've got to say, my confidence has grown a lot over the past year. The very first thing that I ever put out was just a simple linear drawing. And I'm not one for social media in terms of getting loads of likes and stuff like that, but I do use Instagram as a platform. And from there, I started to kind of work around another process where I suffer from insomnia. And it was quite funny because it's just simple line drawings, like scribbles. Starts off as if you're going to bed and it progressively gets worse. So I always say when you have insomnia, it's like a full-on head wave that you're having. And I kind of emphasize that with colour and lines. When I posted that, I couldn't believe the amount of people that came back and said, actually, you've knocked that on the head. That's what insomnia is to me. So for me, that kind of those little things of putting things out and getting feedback, it makes you not feel so alone. And I think that's the whole concept that with the work that I create, I want people to realise that they're not the only person going through something like that, that they're not alone. There is other people feeling the exact same way, but how do you actually communicate that? And well, here we go, I've communicated it this way, so it makes people feel a wee bit better, and it makes me feel a lot better. So for me, the confidence side of it has excelled leaps and bounds, to be quite honest.
that's great, really great to hear. And that's just the beautiful thing about art. It's its own language. It can be shown anywhere and people can understand it. You don't have to speak the same language, you don't have to live in the same country, and it brings people together.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you've created movement within it, from the way that the water is flowing, you've really got the flow in, and the artwork itself, when you look at it, you can see the movement, you can feel the movement, you can almost transport it to where your inspirations are.
As I said, and I think I've said in the statement I gave you, I like to take people, I want to take people on a journey, even if it's almost like a daydream. With the water flow picture, I do find that does do that, and it does it justice. When I explain the concept behind it, I mean, just even the sound of water and taking people, letting people look at it and just think about, a place that has water flowing. When they see that, I just want, as you say, to allow them to transport themselves to that place. So it's almost like a meditative state and a meditation state. And I think well, for me, I find that it really works well, particularly that image. If I am feeling quite worked up, it is an image that I would sit and look at and think, well, this is the place that I know that I've done this for, this is where I'm going, and that's where I'm 5 minutes, and then back to doing what I'm doing.
You've got some great comments here. Everyone's loving the water, the qualities, the sounds. We've got from Carla, beautiful work. Thank you for sharing and telling your story so beautifully. It's really inspiring. From Caroline, we've got brilliant and so personal, Martina. I love the connection to nature and how it can be connected to our own journeys in life. And we have a question. Hi, Martina, loved your talk. It was really inspirational. Do you feel your productivity, actual content of your work changes depending on the way you feel day to day? And does the mindset of yourself ever change throughout the process of creating your artwork?
Yeah, my artwork, I would say, changes from day to day depending on what mindset I'm in. I always refer mindset and thinking to a roller coaster ride. You know, you have your ups and downs, and particularly I always think about the Big Dipper in Blackpool. So yeah, my work isn't always bright and colourful, but at the same time, I still have elements of how I'm feeling. So although I work in colour, I do love to work in monochromatic. So if there is times that I'm feeling really, really rubbish, I'll use like monochromatic stuff in order to accentuate that out. Do I post it much? No, I don't find I post it as much now, but it's more of a personal journey, as I said, in that aspect. But yeah, as I said, I love to, it's my journal at the end of the day. I don't really look at it as I'm putting it out there, except like specific for people to look at and to buy if they wanted to. It's personal to me. Every piece that I create is personal to me. And yeah, so I think if you look through my Instagram, you'll see, you know, okay, maybe she was feeling a bit thingy that day or whatever. So yeah, each day is a different day for me. And the good thing about the productivity side of it, the more that I've started doing it, I've made it a habit now where I'm creating things each day, whether it's taking 5 minutes or an hour to 2 hours. I make a point of creating something, and it's quite interesting, particularly from the chat the other day, with the data visualization. I suppose I do an element of that as well, in terms of how my mood's feeling and what the weather's like, and you know, nature round about me. So yeah, I suppose.
That's a fantastic answer. And how has COVID affected your artwork? Has it made new colour palettes? Has it really, how has it pushed it?
COVID for me, actually, I've got to say, has been such an uplifting experience for me, and it's not something, when I say that to people, they go, what? I think the best way to explain it is, I think with the maps of life, having lived in such a dark tunnel for a long time, when COVID came around, I was kind of at the end of this therapeutic journey with mental health services. And so for me, I used every day as, you know, my colour palettes became brighter. I was using, well, I think at the first lockdown up here now, as I said, I stay in Scotland, we don't have the best of weather. So it was always, Scotland's always miserable, but at the first lockdown, we had actually really exceptional weather. So I think for that, your mood was a lot brighter. So my colour palettes were very summery, lots of greens, lots of pinks. I'm not a pink person, really hate pink, but my artwork seems to kind of showcase a lot of pinks and purples. So yeah, I think for the pandemic side of it for me, I was a lot better off than people who necessarily found it really difficult. And I think also in the sense of that was the start of my journey where I found a path that I really enjoyed. So having a bit of time, because I wasn't working all the time, having a bit of time to sit and think about it, and also journal about it, writing down how I was feeling that day, allowed me to kind of express myself a lot more. So yeah, the pandemic side of it actually worked in my favour.
That's actually so good to hear. If anyone else has any questions, please don't hesitate to put it in. And I mean, your work has been really inspiring and interesting to look at this evening, and I'm really glad that you've come on to share it. And well, it's very abstract, and it's so interesting, and you feel so much. It's amazing how abstract art can really get to your emotions.
That's the thing that I love most about it. As I said, I used to do artistic practice. One of my main ambitions in life was to, when I was younger, was to go to Glasgow School of Art. Obviously, with it being such a renowned institution, so I used to do a lot of art, and a lot of it was very static, still lifes and floral compositions and so on and so forth. Which at that time I thought I really loved. I never went to Glasgow School of Art. I opted to go down a different career choice there. But for me, when I started to tap back into it, I think abstract, as I said, it evokes a lot more emotion. I kind of experiment, like, as I said, I love landscape stuff, but I would never take the time to sit down and draw like a full detailed landscape. I love the fact now that I can take a paintbrush and take the colours off a landscape and just move it around a page and create like certain outlines to say, well, that's the mountain, that's the water, you know. I just love the fact that it's so free flowing, and particularly with a digital art piece, as I say, I'm sure every artist would say it, they suffer from perfectionist issues. I'm terrible for it. And for me, the digital art, as I said, I can start off with one piece, and if I don't like it, I'll say, well, I'll save that for later, but I'll move on and I'll do something else. So from that, I can create much more different elements of it and different segments of it. And yeah, and I suppose that helps with certain days the way I'm thinking. So if I look at it 3 days later and say, well, actually, no, I don't like that, then I can scrub it out and do something else.
That's brilliant. Well, I think that's all of the questions answered. If anyone has any other questions, I'll make sure to let you know. And so yes, so once again, thank you so much for coming to this artist talk. Thank you so much for being a part of the Human Mind exhibition. This will be uploaded to YouTube within the next 48 hours, and the link will be sent out. And so we still have more on the Artist Talk series for the Human Mind. Tomorrow night we have Maureen Gillespie, who we rescheduled due to technical issues. And then next week, from Monday to Thursday, 7 till 8 p.m, we have 4 more artists doing Artist Talks. So please make sure to come to those. And every Thursday evening, we also have our podcast, Finding the Why, where each week we talk about the news in the art world, and we do some fun challenges along the way. So yes, thank you so much to everyone who has come this evening and taken the time to listen. Thank you once again to Martina for being here.
Thank you very much for letting me participate.
You're more than welcome. So yes, we'll see you soon, and stay safe.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.